Crash Course Live is presented by
Smash It Demolition Derbies, who host Bash for Cash, Blizzard Bash, and Capital City Carnage. Online at smashitderby.com. And Stirring Dirt Racing, host of Maymania's team show at the Golden Spike Arena in Ogden, Utah. Online at stirringdirtracing.com.
Reckless Abandon Derby Apparel and Derby Inc. Magazine. This is the Crash Course Demolition Derby podcast, recorded live at the FingerLakes1.com studios in downtown Seneca Falls, New York. And now your host, Chris Marquardt.
Good afternoon, good evening, and welcome to this edition of the Crash Course Demolition Derby podcast, episode number 333. On deck as we make our march towards 350.
Whose number's that?
333 is Darren Zoff Jr.
Nope.
Yep, it is. It is. Wayne Clemens.
There you go. That's what I was thinking of.
Speaking of Wayne Clemens, a guy who spent a lot of time running out in Dunkirk's neck of the woods, Jimmy Ellman posted a picture of an 8-point buck that he had to use a forklift to hold the horns up. The thing was huge.
That's awesome.
It was a good-looking deer. And also, all of our friends out there are under a snow advisory. They could be getting a foot of snow. So...
Happy to be right here at this part of New York.
You can keep all of that. Wow, man, everybody was jumping in early tonight. Bobby Joe Shipley and John out there. Scott Kiefer's out there. Jacob Lane saying hello. Nick Stepik. So I'm glad that we have the number of people out there like we do right now, because this is some of this is going to also fall back on your shoulders as well. We had a lot of stuff planned this weekend, and this past weekend was supposed to be the Tiger Memorial. Mm-hmm. I reached out to Cody, and obviously things were real heavy for them. You know, one, there's no news to give. Nobody knows anything. Mm-hmm. We can rehash the same story, and they were hit a little bit out of left field with the short notice on the schedule, and then on top of that, it still is it's still a big day for them, you know. Yes. the memorial and thinking of everybody. So the Tim Taggart Memorial obviously off the schedule for this year. Daytona's off the schedule for this year. So Cody said, appreciate it. That's very kind, but let's hold off until we have something to talk about.
Understandable.
Have some news and some progress. So we went that route, and the day it got away from me today. I was going to try and set something up so that we could follow up in bigger form and fashion with Smash It. But last night, I got in a conversation with Lee Sager, and it spilled into today. Not overnight, but we picked it up during lunch today, talking about, you know, is it the money that makes people come to a derby? Is it the cheap entry fee that makes people come to a derby? Or is it instead, I get something that nobody else does? Because we've often talked about how people will virtually kill each other for $1 more than anybody else in the field, and we got kicking that idea around, and I wanted to get some thoughts from some of the fans that are always tuned in at home. So we've got some of that stuff. I want you to throw as many ideas, as many questions as you can fit into the live chat window. We will we'll try to answer as many of those as possible. But you know, Brian, let's use that as a jumping off point. You get the trophy, and people won't miss their hometown fair because they get the trophy, even though you know the inspection is trash, and you know that the builds suck, and you know you're going to waste a good car, and you know the money isn't going to be there and everything, but you still want to get that trophy because nobody else is going to have it. Is it the money, or is it something else?
You know, I think it depends where you're talking about. You know, for me personally, you know, obviously you're in the same boat. You know, we grew up loving Waterloo. There was, for the longest time, there was no other derby in the world other than Waterloo. And you know, even with the smaller car counts, there's still just something about Waterloo. I feel like
that was almost out of control.
Guys that come to Waterloo, you know, they drive hard, they put on the show. You know, it's not an easy derby by any means. So, I mean, if you're talking a hometown fair, I mean, I think it's just the local bragging rights. I mean, I'll be really honest with you. And people may not like me after this, but that's fine. That's not the first time. The first year I won Waterloo, we brought the car home. I unloaded it, pulled it into my front yard, and parked it. And we had got I think it was the year we moved in and we got a new TV. No, it wasn't that. I can't remember. But I got a cardboard box. It was, I don't know. It was big. I put 2000 Seneca County Fair Demolition Derby champion and plopped it right in front of that car and left it there. I was proud, man. It meant a lot. It meant so much to win Waterloo. It was my hometown. I mean, we touched on it. I'd seen Mark and Harold and Betty just, that was their, that was like going to the bank for them. I mean, they'd come in there and they'd walk out with a whole bunch of money. Dave Harrington, local guy, I'd seen him win a bunch. Brett had won my hometown fair before me, I think. So it just, for something like that, it means.
So Brett won the year before? I thought Brian Wise got his first one the year before you did.
Brian Wise won. I can't remember if I won that before Brett or not, but.
I thought Brett had a couple, or at least helped Mark get a couple of them in the years prior to that.
Yeah.
There was a run where there was because back then in the mid '90s there was 2 features through the week, and there was a stretch of 12 straight or 6, and then one guy, and then another 6 or 7 in a row where somebody with a last name that rhymes with Benjamin ended up taking the win out of there.
Yeah, no doubt. Honestly, maybe I did have one be there before Brett. I don't know. But, I mean, it just, when it comes to the hometown, it's your hometown. It's just that's, and I think everybody's kind of gone through that. That's real. I mean, even talking to, talking to some of the bigger names, that's what I've heard from them as well.
So there's some talk about the money being something, but it not being everything. The immediate messages coming back from Pork Chop and from Jacob Lane is the bragging rights, because after that, the trophy's a dust collector. We remember we went to the Keystone Nationals, and we have a picture of Todd Height standing next to that trophy, and that trophy was 6 foot tall. Mm-hmm. And we joked about how a lot of these guys were going to have to disassemble it just to get it home, because they had cars that were coming from so far away. And then there's uniqueness of trophies where you get I think it was the Battle at the Border where they had the caskets and then the creepy doll. Somebody was just talking about that. The money encourages it, but we've often joked, especially in our trips out west to Utah and Minnesota, where if you paid everybody in the feature $600, put the Mad Dog out there for $1,000, they would go berserk. Oh, yeah. Or you could go out there and you could pay everybody out there $600, eliminate the Mad Dog, and first place gets 601. Oh, yeah. And they would go nuts, and it would happen that way. There's all this allure with the big money shows and going out there and running for $10,000 and wanting to be a part of it, and then at the same time we've seen so many promoters say, I don't want to book a big show in June, July, or August. Because all your county fairs and drivers will not skip their hometown fair. I mean, we've seen, remember what a big deal it was when Matt Gaskin came to Seneca County? Because typically that falls in line with Hemlock's schedule and Canandaigua's schedule, and it just happened to be that we had that extra week, and it got us a little bit more room, and he showed up, and he said he's always wanted to come here, which was... It's cool to hear. It was very good to see him there.
And we've talked on it too as well. Money's nice, but you spend it. You're not going to think. I guess I should. When I won Waterloo the first time, the money the first Rottweiler I bought came from Waterloo winnings. I took it and I bought a Rottweiler, so that was kind of cool. I don't know, man. A lot of it. Like I think for the bigger derbies, it's winning Metal Mayhem, for the longest time was like winning Daytona. You know what I mean? Like it was a long time. It stood alone as the crown jewel of Demolition Derby. There was, there was a documentary made about it. Every year guys would get on We Crash to see what was going on and who won, and so the bigger shows, I definitely think it's also bragging rights. I really do. I mean, money's nice. I mean, everybody'd like to win $10,000 in a derby, but
we're gonna have to keep our thoughts short here tonight. Everybody has totally embraced this interaction thing. My God, I can't even keep up. Justin Hartzell said, essentially, if you get booed at your hometown show, that means more than the money or the trophy.
That's happened.
He said he was in food line after the Derby was over with, and he was in the food line after the Derby was over with, and the people in front of him and behind him were talking trash on him and didn't even know he was there. That's
awesome.
kind of funny. Jacob Lane says it doesn't matter. Even if the Mad Dog was twice the money, it's still worth it to take the win and say I drove better than you. That's
fair.
That's kind of interesting. Or you just do what Jake and Ben used to do and knock you out of your seat better than everybody else did.
Jake who?
Jake Doyle.
Jake Doyle's hit people before?
Yes.
Really?
Yes.
I'm gonna have to go back and check videos. I don't believe that. That's not true. Jake drove a hell of a show in the first mod show at Waterloo. Jake was tearing stuff up.
Do you remember that time when you drove by Jake and he was hung up and he was hanging out the window and you didn't knock him off?
Yep. Sure do.
Oh, Miles Ricketts. The Ricketts family out in Massachusetts are out of their mind. They are a lot of fun to watch. So this should be good. Atmosphere and rules. Travel to a show that pays a little less if they have good rules and isn't a hassle. With one person passes, the next fails for the same thing. That's an interesting take on it. But that still doesn't separate us from people won't travel opposite their hometown fair.
Yeah.
Think about the number of times we've talked about the caliber of drivers in Waterloo who have then eventually ventured out and run at Bash for Cash or Keystone Nationals because that was really the only things that they had as options. Yep. Maybe even if you branch that out to include like wheel days and some of that stuff in the southeast of us, that eventually went down to run in Virginia. That still will do nothing but complain about their hometown fair, but will do nothing but run it.
Yeah, it's and that's the thing. I've definitely had. I've had my share of controversies at Waterloo, but I mean, I still love it. It's still hard not to run it, but I mean, unfortunately right now it's just not where, I'm building to go. But like last year when I went down to run, Gully's show, I support Jeremy because he's a good guy. He's got good rules. I like how they do things. But I mean, I got down there last year and I was looking at the caliber of cars. And I'm like, damn, if I win this heat, I'd beat some really good stuff. I mean, this would definitely be, this would be a very I'd take this as a very impressive win. And then 3 minutes later, my shift and linkage was kaput. But,
that's the same thing that happened at Cuca Clash, right?
No. Cuca Clash, I got pinned against the wall by 3 guys and drove over by 2 more. Or was it pinned against the wall by 2 guys and drove over by 3? I can't remember how that went.
Dylan Swingle brought it up in chat. I couldn't let it go.
It's all good. Karma, brother. Karma.
Go on.
But no, it's it's hard to say. I mean, at this point, I would like to, I mean, I don't know. I'm closing in on 50. I don't know how much longer I'm going to be doing it, but I mean, I would like to just go run. I'm Christmas. Somebody wants to talk to me. I would like to go run a big show just to say I have. I mean, kind of. We went to King's Old School and did above average there. I was pretty happy, and I'd like to try it again someday. So we'll see what happens.
Andy Wolfanger and Kenny Swingle, I believe, were the two that were the first to introduce themselves to you.
Well, the Manichaki brothers were right there with them. There was 4 of them right off the bat. I guess Kenny didn't like it when I put him on the wall in the heat. And he was really upset after that, I know. But, that happens.
It does happen. If there's a Mad Dog, I'm sending it. Even with no Mad Dog, I'll make my presence known. James Brown.
Oh, yeah. And that's
a true statement.
We've talked about it, and Brett's told me repeatedly, he's like, if you would just let off the gas a little more, he's like, you'd have a lot more wins. And what I'm guilty of is, it always seems to happen that at Waterloo, I'm sorry about talking about Waterloo, people. Sorry about that. But, when you make a hit and you can hear the crowd over the cars, there isn't a whole lot more that's better than that. I mean, that's a really neat feeling. And, maybe I'm an adrenaline junkie, or I like to hear the cheers. 'Cause once I hear that, I tend to get on the gas pretty hard. And so it's hard to...
Waterloo, Canandaigua, Penyan. There was someplace else where the old track at Shenandoah County, the old Woodstock track.
Mm-hmm.
Those tracks, the fans were right. They're right on top of the cars.
Mm-hmm.
They're so close that you can hear the conversations happening in the front row when you're waiting for the green flag to start.
Mm-hmm.
And
have you ever been to Afton when they had a derby?
I was there one time. Yep, I was at Afton one time. I don't remember what the show was, but I was at it. It was Afton because it wasn't Accord.
Was it?
It was Pat Jordan ran the place. It was Afton, right?
I think so.
Yeah,
because they have the track, like the old track that's closer to the stands, and then they have the track that they race on now, which is farther away.
Yeah, this was the old one. This is the one where at some point somebody like hit a trash can and it caught on fire, kind of close.
Nice.
It was fun. That was a long time ago.
Yeah, but no, back in the day, when we first started traveling, we would go to different places just because they were different places. That's how we went to Burton, Utica, Rome, Fulton. It was someplace different. We had multiple cars, and we said, "Hey, let's go try this," and it was fun. The money was nice. The first one I got at Burton was $1,000, and that was in 1999. Mm-hmm. That was real good money in 1999. Mm-hmm. So, that was fun. But I don't know.
Alex Vasco just said, "I always drive to put on a show because there's too many people watching the replay to drive any other way." Spoken by the camera guy.
Yeah, spoken by the camera guy, the really good camera guy. Yeah, it's fun. I've had both happen. I've drove more calculating and been booed, and I've stood on the gas and been cheered. So it's and that's the thing. We said it before. It's like a boxing match. It's everybody's got a plan until you get punched in the mouth. And my thing usually is that I don't really. I've never that offhand remember. I guess probably Brett, but I've never taken a big shot that really rocked me, that made me mad. But like if somebody gets into a tire or somebody does something like that, I'm like, all right, you're getting it now.
Something popped into my mind as you were starting to go down that road, and I was just thinking of your wagon when Jake brought an '83 Imperial, the weird looking heat car. Mm-hmm. And he tagged you, and I almost think you either went along the blocks or behind the blocks and came back in and chased around and ended up putting him up on the blocks with his back bumper up in the air.
Really? I don't remember that.
Was that the gold? Or was that the gold Chrysler?
I don't remember that.
I can't remember.
I remember Jake having that like '83 Imperial or whatever it was, =82 Imperial. Yeah. But I don't.
I thought he popped you, and there was only a few cars on the track at that point.
Do you remember the year when I took a few years off, and I came back and I had that blue Grand Fury that I'd ran at the state fair, and they went out and said go, and Jake his mind was to junk me. He was after me from the word go until we were done. You remember that one? It was Wednesday night.
I remember Wednesday night when Nick had that yellow and orange car. Remember that one?
Impala? His colors were yellow and orange for a long time.
Yeah, it was before he started getting into the Pontiac wagons. And we have had debates over this before. I think he ended up winning it. And the car ended up down the street from me back when the Felbers lived on the corner of Main Street. Mm-hmm. The car ended up down there. I always thought it was an Imperial, but I remember that feature really, really stands out.
Well, his win came in a 64 Imperial because it came down. Him and I battled. I had that 66 that I'd ran like 3 years, and it came down to him. Well, Matt Robson.
Matt Robson had a couple good runs.
He had a Diplomat, and I would just like get him out of the way, and Nick and I would battle. And I think he ended up second, and I ended up third. I lost steering. I got stuck up against the wall, and Nick left me there, which is what he should have done. But I remember he brought that fresh, and when we got done, his rear bumper was touching his rear window. We were getting after it, but that was fun. Nick is one of those guys you never got mad. He'd get out and shake your hand and smile. And
I've never seen him upset. And you were talking about the guys that they get rattled when they get hit or they punch in the mouth and their eyes roll back and they just start going crazy. Nick, you could driver door him from half a track away and he would never get off of his game plan.
No.
Dan Bolton weighing in with a couple thoughts here. There's a lot of pride in running your hometown track, and then when a big show starts to take over and all the big names start coming into town, you want to rock them and say, welcome to my hometown.
Yeah, that's true.
That's a good point. Another thing that came up in the conversation is if it's not the money, if in pride trumping all, what about the weird prizes? Like sometimes there's these weird incentives. I can't remember where it was, and I was trying to rack my brain and remember it. I want to say that it was someplace in Ohio, but I can't remember for certain. It was either Ohio or it was a derby down in Maryland. This is a long, long time ago. The Mad Dog Award was sweet corn. It was bags and bags of sweet corn.
That's awesome.
and you'd have thought it was $10,000. People were just going nuts for it.
Well, again, remember Wayne Ellison Sr. for a few years at Waterloo? He made some really nice stuff for the feature Mad Dogs.
The fireplaces, those fire pits.
Of course, his kid got 2 or 3 of them. Right. Tim on occasion drives hard, so. But
Tim did the right thing. He cut them up and used them as fix-it plates, right?
But yeah, I mean it's neat. I'd like to get one of those 6-foot trophies. I can't remember who I was talking to.
Are your ceilings even high enough in the house for 6?
Oh yeah, we got cathedral ceilings in my living room. We get 14-foot Christmas trees. But by the time my kids were born, my wife had moved all of my trophies out of anywhere in view. And Zach happened to be going through stuff and found them one day. So he's brought them all back down there in the living room. So I'm thinking, he goes back to college, they'll probably get put back away. But for right now, they're still out. But I don't know. I mean, the Waterloo trophy sits in a pretty prominent spot. That was a big trophy. That was pretty cool to finally get that again.
Ed Brewster, check it in. Anthony Faith, remember seeing a Sky High award. I've seen those before. The person that gets their bumper the highest.
Oh yeah,
those are always fun.
Didn't they do that at Winter Slam?
Yes.
That's been an award from day one. Well, since our day one, Winter Slam,
right?
That's been a day one or an award, but
yep. I remember that, and then the longest toe. I think that always is sort of a given at some of these bigger shows. There's some sort of longest toe qualifier. Carson Dixon has basically owned that from Lignite, South Dakota, coming over to Winter Slam, but then he got beat by Andy Shipp. Coming from England. Yeah.
Yeah, but he didn't actually toe anything. I don't think that's fair.
Marcella Benjamin says that you can borrow one of her 6-foot trophies. She's got a couple to pick from.
Yeah, it's nice. I got a 3-footer. That's not bad. I'm happy with it.
Scott Kiefer says running Steuben County was the best. The fans were fantastic, and the hometown, on top of the hometown, running against the Snyders was always fun. The Snyders were tough.
Yeah, they were always fun to watch. Dougie and Danny were amazing. Good dudes.
Chuck Bowman says, making any of you guys cheer is enough. After all, you have seen it's hard to do. So suddenly we're experts. I'll take it.
Chuck, it's funny. Chuck and I have grown up together. We've gotten older together. Neither one of us have grown up. That was a false statement. Chuck and I have gotten older together. And, he actually started out in Derby before I did. And he has been one guy that has not cared from day one what he's in. Somebody's going to get hit as fast as that car will go. It doesn't matter what he's in. It came down to him and I at Waterloo. Sorry, Josh. It came down to him and I at Waterloo once. He had like a 80s Chevy Impala, and I had an Imperial. And, Chuck always said, man, I'd love to battle you. And Chuck's a little nuts. And this is a hillbilly hammer for those of you who don't know his actual name.
Smashing his way to Valhalla.
Yeah. But we battled in the heat. Chuck was hitting me as hard as that car was, and I gave him pretty good shots. And I didn't find out till like the next year. We got talking because unfortunately, kids in life, we just don't see each other as much. And he's like, yeah, you broke my ribs last year. I'm like, what? He's like, yeah, I ended up with some broken ribs after that heat. He's like, that was fun. I'm like, Chuck, you are absolutely insane. But yeah, Chuck is definitely fun to watch. If I win the lottery, Chuck is going to have some incredibly built, nasty cars, and we're going to see him really wreck shit.
Because we don't get a lot of them, I think Chuck Bowman is now chasing the number one spot for most rollovers in the Seneca County history, initiating most rollovers. I think Lenny Marsh had the most. If you count the TP hit where they both went up and they kind of teetered over when he hit with the Captain Crunch wagon.
I don't remember that.
That was early '90s. So I think he's got 3, but I think Chuck has 2.
Really?
2 or 3. I remember one time he hit Jonathan Fowler, and Jonathan Fowler was like in the exchange and ended up blasting another compact car in front of the Jersey barriers right near the crossover gate, and he ended up flipping that car over. It was like a Chrysler LeBaron or something, an '80s Chrysler LeBaron, small one like the Charger or whatever. And later on in the night, Chuck had a celebrity wagon. I mean, one of the most indelible moments that I have in Demolition Derby, front to back, with all of the derbies that we've seen. And some of those years it was 30, 40 a year. Was Chuck had this celebrity wagon, and he was coming off turn 1, and he turns right towards the stage, and he's got this big open helmet. A celebrity wagon isn't big to begin with.
No.
He basically put it on like a shirt when to climb into this thing.
Yeah.
He's got that goofy open helmet, and he's just grinning ear to ear, and the back end's broke, and the back tires are doing this behind him, and he's got that thing turning 7,000 RPM, moving at 4 miles an hour, And there was no place else on earth that he would rather be. And I looked at that, and I had the microphone, and I was supposed to be saying something, but I just, for a split second, I thought, some point in my life, I want that joy.
Yeah.
Because there was no place else Chuck would rather be than right there in that car.
Yeah. And you know who else you got that same feeling for was Chuck Chapman.
Yeah.
When Chuck Chapman was on the Derby track, that was where he was supposed to be. Because Chuck never bitched. Chuck Chapman never bitched. He never complained. It didn't matter if he had a car that was, cherry or a car that was rusted to pieces. Chuck was going to be there at the end, and Chuck was going to drive hard to the end.
And I remember when Chuck won at Metal Destruction in the stock class. And I hadn't really known him at all before that, and what a genuinely nice guy he was.
Yeah.
I just knew him from just tenacity. Just he will get every last bit out of whatever rusty pile he brings out there, and he's gonna threaten the money.
Oh, absolutely.
And I got to picture him holding that trophy, and he's got this sneer, and I'm like, man, this dude must have 1,000 wins. He hates any bit of this, And as I got to know him a little bit more, it's like he just didn't really care for the attention, but was a genuinely nice guy. He got caught in that trench. I think he had a brown wagon. He had a brown wagon when Josh won the stock show at Metal Destruction with his Malibu.
Yep.
I remember the Redskins decal on the bumper sticker still.
Yeah. Of course, Chuck had drove a hard heat, and you could have put the taillights back in Josh's car. But hey, he got the win. I mean, that's all that really matters. But I mean, we've seen guys like that, at the national level too. I mean, we see guys that we mentioned Bobby Brockway. Bobby doesn't put Bobby puts the time into the important parts, but he doesn't have $3,000 in his cage. But he's always there at the end, and he is always going to have an outcome, or he's always going to affect the outcome of those big shows. So it's cool to see, to see it all the way. And the thing that I love, one of the things I really love about Demolition Derby is we've gotten more, we've become more experienced, is to find out that from Maine to Minnesota to California, everybody is working on their Derby cars last minute. That makes me feel so good. Because I just thought it was me that was killing myself trying to get cars done. No, it's everybody. That's
You got to hear this Dan Bolton story. I've never heard this story before. He just shared it in the live chat. He was in Cuba, and he had put concrete in his rear bumper. So the end of the derby, an official comes up to him with a chunk of concrete in his hand, right? And they go, "What's this?" And Dan goes, I have no idea. And he goes, "Well, it came out of your bumper." And Dano goes, "Oh yeah, that's right. I loaded my bumper full of concrete." And the official says, "You're never gonna run you again." And Dan goes, "That's fine. I didn't plan on coming back."
That is pretty neat. Yeah, we saw some real good shows down there. Mm-hmm. We saw some really good shows down in Cuba.
I was cleaning up, making room for the new computer that we got out of Ohio, and the monitor rig was way bigger than it looked in the pictures. It takes up quite a bit of space. So I was cleaning up the desk and going through. I mean, I was finding notes and slips of paper from 2017, 2016 doing DVDs. I found the first note card that I wrote down the measurements for the picture-in-picture.
Really?
Yeah. You know, not that really matters or anything, but it was still there.
Yeah, it's something neat that you found in your history.
I don't clean that desk.
That's funny.
I found this chunk of rock. It was about that big. And that rock came off of the wall at Dunkirk about 8 feet in front of where I was filming from when Hank Pensek took his outlaw car and he hit the wall so hard it cracked the block. It took a chunk out of the top of it and it put a big crack in it. It was nuts. Car didn't move.
Oh, that's great.
But
Hammer and Hank.
I had two pieces off of that wall, and one of the pieces, the big piece, it was in Hank's garage. I mean, who knows if it's still there, but after the derby, I threw him in the – I used to have this DeWalt tow dolly that all the GoPros and all the cameras and stuff sat in, and I threw him in the bottom of it, and we went back to Hank's house after the derby, and I gave it to him, and he put that right up on the shelf, and I kept one of the smaller pieces, and I just thought that was the coolest thing.
That's pretty neat.
And I'd forgot where it was or what happened to it, but I found that again. That was kind of neat. You know, one of those that ranks right up there. If I could ever get my hands on one of those servos, you know, the one that Rick had on the show, I'd like to get my hands on one of those. I got a bunch of old stuff in the garage that's parts and pieces that's scrapped to anybody else, but it's really cool to have that, a bunch of grills out of cars and stuff.
Remember how excited Rick was when he was showing us that servo?
Yeah,
that was awesome.
That was his contribution to the world.
That was awesome, man.
Yep, he certainly did.
That might be our most popular in studio show.
Oh yeah.
Like that's got like 3,500 or 4,000 views. It's up there.
Oh, yeah, it's got tons.
Yeah,
tons of,
that was
watches.
That was really cool. Which would make Rick's day. He really enjoyed the sport, man.
Alex Vasco, what are the plans for Crash Course in 2021? That's a great question. The plans for 2021 are try to get back to normal, which I still think is too early to tell. I don't think that we're going to be doing anything before we get to the middle of summer for us, just because of the restrictions that we've got for us up here. One of the classes in my wing of the school is now on lockdown, quarantine. Like the kids aren't allowed in the school and everything because that's super close to home. Like super close to home.
Oh yeah, it's been hitting around my wife at school.
It just feels weird. Like it almost feels like somebody's throwing darts and you're on that spinning wheel. Is it going to get you or not? You know. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. I think that we'll still be facing some challenges. Within the next 2 weeks, we'll find out more about Motorama in Harrisburg, which would probably be the first thing that we go do in any way, shape, or form, and that's just announcing the old track racing stuff down there. Beyond that, I don't know. If you got ideas, you let me know.
Yeah, we're if things open back up, I mean, Chris and I have talked a little bit, and if I'm speaking out of turn, Chris will correct me. But we've discussed doing some live streams, maybe, just to kind of get back, and not the schedule we had before where we were doing them every weekend. No. Both of us got just too much going on right now to do that. But I mean, we've discussed doing a live stream or two, and obviously there's this stuff with Smash It. Hopefully we can get back to get back to some normalcy there. But if nothing else, we're going to be here every Monday night. It's still pretty special that so many people enjoy our show.
If Finger Lakes won, I mean, that's the one part.
Yeah, if he doesn't kick us out. So we'll do it from Chris's Kitchen.
Contracts due up at the end of the year. It's a contract year, so we got to make sure we put together a couple good weeks.
Yeah, we'll see what we can do.
Way to really kick things off for the month of December, having no guests and talking about stuff from 20 years ago.
Everybody's got to do a retro show, man. They do it every year with NASCAR and I shouldn't do the NASCAR because they're dying. Sprint cars and late models and
and the thing is there's. I'm going to preface this by saying, live your authentic life. Mm-hmm. Live what you have fun with. Friday night, I did a stream with RDP, and yes, it's cross-posted to the Crash Course page, and yes, you can see Video Game Demolition Derby on the Crash Course page. If you don't like it, shut it off. I'm not going to stop being friends with you because you don't like it, but,
Yep.
You don't really need to tear me down because of it. It's whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But remember Relic Lindsay?
Yeah.
He was all over that thing.
That's awesome.
He was, and we haven't talked to Relic since probably, I'm guessing it might have been the 2019 Blizzard Bash or the one prior to that we were at, which would have been 2017 Blizzard Bash or March Capital City Carnage. So it's been a long time since but it was a ton of fun just interacting with them, and then we got bantering back and forth with Lee, and I'm like, we haven't done this in a long time, especially since we've had Facebook as a primary part of what we were doing. We've had it before, but it wasn't out there. It was a little clunky and stuff like that. So I figured, why not give it a try and see what happened? But I mean, things have lit up. Eric Wheeler, he's got COVID right now. He's real sick up in Rochester, so we're thinking of Eric. Man, that's tough to learn of. Hopefully he's going to be okay. I'm looking for a comment that we had a little bit ago that got lost in the shuffle. Jeff Schumann, strive for the top and still get Mad Dog. He's got a few of those. Anthony Faith, he's going to go wide open at Redneck Rumble this year. Man, where did that go?
It's pretty neat. Jeffy's down there building something in the shop. I said, how do you manage to listen to us? He said, earbuds. So it's pretty cool that Jeffy listens to us pretty regularly on Monday nights. So
Chris Leach, the person with the most memories is the person with the most wealth. Work in silence and let success be the noise.
And I'm here to tell you that Chris Leach is one of the most underrated drivers in New York State. Chris is a pure Ford man. He ran against guys like Mike Rice and the Snyders and Aaron Bunce, and Chris was always there at the end. Great mechanic, great driver, great builder. I have very fond memories of watching the Cool Cat run back in the day.
Always in Fords, right?
Always in Fords. I remember when the guys first started going down first started going down to the south to look at cars. Guys are bringing back fresh Mopars or fresh this and fresh that, and Chris brings back a fresh Crown Vic, and of course he won 2 or 3 shows that. And but yeah, Chris Leach is a great builder, great driver, great guy. He's one of the many Derby guys that reached out to me.
He's from down Bath way, right?
Yep, he lives in Bath.
So I always heard this rumor that he's got this insanely nice shop that he builds in, but all the windows have been spray painted black so you can't see in.
I have been in the Cool Cat shop a couple times. It's the shop, or it's his garage at his house. Definitely pretty meticulous guy. He's good at what he does. Unfortunately, he hasn't ran in a few years, but when he did, he was very good.
We got some pictures. The problem is this platform isn't set up with screen caps, so I don't know.
I'll act like I know what you're talking about.
Huh?
So I'll act like I know what you're talking about.
So in different versions of the streamer that we use here, we've had it set up for screen captures. So we can dial stuff in and out and do screen captures. And we've added different things to this and updated and changed it. And somehow The screen capture input has been removed, or at least recalibrated, because I don't recognize it, and it doesn't say anything in here about that. So I don't know if I can grab those pictures, but Nick has sent some pictures. What we'll do maybe is when I get back home, because it's going to be late night doing graphics and stuff anyway, we'll try and pull some of those down. We can add them in the comments on the Facebook page, so you can see some of those other unique trophies, and we'll go from there. Eric Wheeler drove vans, huh? Interesting. Mark Benjamin said he was a past winner at Waterloo. I don't remember him winning there. Not to say that he didn't. Eric Wheeler.
Yeah, if he came up and ran on Mark, yeah, I would remember. There's a couple years Mark brought a friend or two of his up and ran. Right. Well, the year we found the dried mud in the frame, the guy that they gave the first place money that night was a friend of Mark's.
Yeah.
So, because there was nights they would bring up 3-4 cars. Not that they really needed them, but they would bring extra just in case.
Decoys.
Yeah, but yeah. Why does black add toughness to cars? That's a question for the live stream. Chris is over there. Maybe somebody can answer that question. Why does black add toughness to derby cars? I mean, most all of us are guilty of it. We've all painted our cars black at one point or another. So why does black add toughness to cars?
I threw it out there. Why are flat black cars harder? I mean, the only car that's ever been run in Ohio has been black.
Yes, I've never seen another car. Yeah,
I know that's a lie though. Chad Dyer's cars are always bright yellow.
Mm-hmm.
They're always bright yellow.
So I got a question for Chris Marquardt.
Yeah. Uh-oh. This is a lot of thought going into
it. It is. I just want to make sure I word it properly.
Okay.
Is Crash Course today in line with the vision you had when you sent me the text that said, hey, you want to do a derby podcast?
No. It's gone up, and it got up to where I thought it was going to be, and then we had to recalibrate what we were doing because it was too much going out and not enough coming back in to make it work. And then where we were at as a result of that, we couldn't keep up with the technology as it evolved. Mm-hmm. And we were going places that didn't have the technology infrastructure to support what we wanted to do. So we were kind of forcing a lot of times, whether anybody knew it at home or not, a lot of times we were forcing a square peg into a round hole and getting lucky that it worked. I didn't want to go fully into the pay-per-view thing. Mm-hmm. If we had, I think our financial situation would have been better and we could have continued on that trajectory. Then in order to keep things balanced and stop hemorrhaging losses, scaling back on the shirts, scaling back on some of the print content and things that we were putting together, we have come out of the mainstream where we were, which isn't necessarily where I thought we would be. I still think that we have a nice lane. I still think that we have a role and a purpose. There's also still times where I'm struggling a little bit to keep going at the pace just because I'm getting tired, and I don't know if the show is still fresh, if it's still new, if there's still new fans coming to it, if people watch out of habit. So is it where I want it to be? No. It was where I wanted it to be, but the opportunity cost of staying at that level it couldn't be reconciled against the long-term sustainability. So we had to find a way to make it back into something to where we could at least regroup. I still think that we're behind technologically, but I think that if we were to go most places that we could find the technological infrastructure there in order to be successful, and we could make what we have more than functional. We've got a lot of the coax stuff that we've only, for all the money that we threw into that coax program, We used it twice, maybe 3 times.
Remember it was only like this maybe second year we were at Blizzard Bash, and the live stream wouldn't work. You remember getting it set up to where you could live stream off your computer, and you're like, "Look, we can do this off mine right now. Let's go." And the powers that be in the arena at that time, because it was a whole different crew working then, they're like, "No, we'll get this working. We'll get this working." But you were ready to go. You had stuff ready, and it was like it delayed. I think the start of the Derby was delayed like an hour. Remember that night? Because we were in the small room on the other side.
Yeah, we were across.
We were running back and forth, and it got to where like you'd went over there a couple times, and they wouldn't talk to you. And then finally, I went over, and I'm like, "Look, what's going on?"
I only went over there once.
Did Josh go over once, maybe?
Josh went over once, and you went over once. I did everything that I was doing by phone. I was calling them, telling them, "Look, I was on the phone with a couple different people, saying right now it's not perfect, but I can get a camera feed out of here right now, and we can start. And then once it's ready, we can kick it over, because you're going to do a whole lot different type of goodwill than otherwise." And I get it. I get all of it. I was thinking in the moment, and they were thinking in the big picture, and that's why they run the big picture.
That's why they're not there anymore. But yeah, we've had some pretty neat times over the years, man. It's still cool to hear from people and to hear people watch us. I mean,
Next Epic and a couple of these guys are all saying that it's good hearing all the old stories, which is good. I mean, that is good. But there's so many places that we've been that I think now in hindsight we could do so much better. I know we need to upgrade our cameras, because I remember from long ago, those cameras that we had, they had HDMI takeoffs. And then you take the HDMI, you put it to a converter, it turns into a SDI signal, and then it goes 300 feet if you need it to, and it goes to a converter, and it comes back down, it goes in the computer, and all works fine. The field of view on those is designed for a long ways away, so it's a real narrow field of view. It's short and wide. So if you have stuff happening right in front of the camera, all of a sudden you're like looking in the window and you can't pull any further back. Like the camera that we've got right here, it's got a different field of view. The difference is the cameras that we were using when we were doing DVDs, I had to be able to replace selling 4 DVDs at $20 a piece. So if a stone went through the lens, I could replace those things for next to nothing, and it wasn't that big of a deal. Now, I mean, like I said, that they were functional, and we did a lot. We did a lot more than people would probably think, given the bags and boxes that we stuffed in the back of the van. We did a lot more than we probably had business doing, and we made the house of cards look really good from 20 feet away. You know what I mean?
Chris and I were talking here, I don't know, a couple weeks ago about some neat ideas that we have going forward. So hopefully, when things get back to normal, we can. I had a pretty good idea, and Chris seemed to like it. So we'll see if we can get that to go at some of these big shows when we get back to them. I think it's something the fans really like. So. Hopefully we can bring you guys, that have supported us for long, bring you guys some pretty neat stuff here in the not so distant future. Guys and gals, sorry.
I got a bunch of messages coming in, and private message too. Man, trying to keep up with everything.
I'd do it on my phone, but it'd blow up and we'd be listening to 18 different things going on. So Chris has got the computer. He's doing the technical stuff, which is the way it should be, because Chris is way smarter than me. Did anybody answer why black cars are tougher?
Yeah. Yeah, they did. Let me get back to everything here. I navigated a way to answer a question. Oh my goodness, man! I got this weekend was crazy. We had a couple days off of school and everything, so make sure that's turned down.
The answer why black cars are tougher?
I didn't have it turned down. There we go. That should be.
That's something I'd do.
Yeah, I gotta get that muted. There we go. Yeah, we had. Why are they so much harder? They're not harder. They're just more elusive. That's Scott Tatters. Bobby Joe Shipley. Flat black hides a lot.
I've heard that
and
rumor.
that came in a bunch of different times.
I've heard that rumor.
Guy Raymond said black has always been an intimidating color, so I can see where that is. Wayne Van Lant, have I thought about working together with someone like Track Shot or Derby Tees to help each other stay fresh and be able to reach drivers from across the USA better? Yeah. There's been a lot of conversations and a lot of people in Demolition Derby that fans have taken up arms to support. Don't realize that talk on a fairly regular basis. It's really interesting when, not so much now, but I mean, if we're going to go in the Wayback Machine, and I don't want anybody to misconstrue this as digging up hatchets that have been buried at all. But it was always interesting to me to have conversations with Mark Klein when we went to Topeka. Always interesting, because we would hear from Derby Tees fans about how terrible we were doing, and then he would get heckled by Crash Course fans. And the thing is we talked regularly. We talked about technology. We talked about cameras. We talked about collaboration. I mean, we still have been on other Derby Tees shows. Remember, we went to Redneck Rumble, Sturgis. We went to Sturgis, Kentucky. We were on the air there, and we've been on the air with at Bash for Cash. A lot of the same staff comes and assists on the Derby Nation shows in Topeka. We talk pretty regularly, so I mean, there's no ill will from us to anybody, you know. And I always got a kick out of it. Like, people thought that there's like all these walls built up, and there's not from us. There's not really in terms of the stuff with Mark and Derby Tees either. You know, there's really no issues. They've got their methodology and their plan, and we've got ours. And when the paths overlap, they overlap, and when they don't, they don't. It is what it is. Joe Johnson, what do we think about the muscle car heat at San Filippo Smash?
I'd like to see it. I would definitely like to see it.
I think it's gonna make a lot of people mad.
I kind of wanted to try to find a Camaro to run, but it just didn't work out for me. I'm looking forward to it. You know, Jeremy and his crew have come up with some pretty neat ideas. You know, it kept Derby pretty interesting. That relic heat has been a favorite the last few years. You know, Klinger's kind of went down there and cleaned house in that. But I'll tell you what, the last year they ran, Klinger really had to work for that one. There were some well built cars. Right. So you know, it's something I'm definitely looking forward to. Hopefully we can get that in. And I what I would personally like to see, a little tangent, is I would like to see, since there wasn't a San Filippo Smash this year, I would like to see us double the money next year.
Sure.
So if we normally, you know, donate, if the Derby community family, you know, usually can donate $75,000, I'd like to donate $150,000. I think that would be amazing. I think that would be something really awesome the Derby community to do. But
yeah, I think the muscle car heat's going to be entertaining. I think we're going to learn a lot. We're going to learn what you can take from Vito's checking in. It's going to be awesome. As long as there aren't any 69 Roadrunners, he'll be okay. There's going to be some nice stuff that gets torn up in that heat, but I think we're going to learn what some of these muscle cars can hold in terms of their Derby street cred, if you will. And I think there's going to be a lot of hurt feelings of that relic class. When those videos got put on Facebook, there was just message and post after post of people. Why would you do that? You know, it's no different than somebody who takes a pristine steel body 35 Ford or a 29 Plymouth and cuts it all up to make it into a rat rod. Mm-hmm. It's theirs. They can do whatever they want with it.
Years ago, Kyle Collinsworth had bought a 64 Imperial at an auction, and I went up and bought it from him, and part of the deal was when I bought it, I'd strip it up there, and he was going to sell glass and motor and training and so on and so forth. So after hours, I'd go up and work on it, stripping it, when I wasn't affecting his business any. And there was a neighbor of Kyle's shop, and he was a customer of Kyle's. And he came over one night and was kind of, needling a little bit about what a nice car, you shouldn't be wrecking it. And he left, and I said something to Kyle, and I'm like, man, it's kind of why I don't have my own business. I don't want to deal with people. And he laughed, and the next night he came back again, and I wasn't in such a good mood. And I said, look, you hand me the right amount of money. I said, I'll leave this car right here. You can do whatever you want with it. I said, otherwise, I don't want to hear your mouth. And that was the end of it, and he walked home. And, that's what it comes down to. If you don't want these cars wrecked, then go out and buy them.
Yep. The cars that are going to be wrecked in the muscle car heat are cars that had already been picked over or you couldn't do anything with. Mm-hmm. At least that's what we're told.
My brother, way back in the day, in the late 80s, Cuyahoga County Fair was huge. And they'd get like 200 cars at a derby at the Cuyahoga County Fairgrounds.
Who is this now?
Cuyahoga County.
No.
My brother. They'd go watch because he was when he was young and they were just out of school.
I was really confused because you started talking about your brother in Cuyahoga County, and I'm thinking we're going to talk about that. It was a Challenger or Cuda or something that he had, the street stock car.
Challenger.
That's where I thought you were going.
Yeah,
so.
well, that too. But him and a bunch of his buddies went to Weed Sport to watch that derby one night, and a guy pulled in there with a 68 or 69 Roadrunner that there was nothing wrong with. And there was guys trying to buy it. Nope, I'm just going to smash it. I hate Mopars. I'm smashing this car. So, it happens. But again, if you don't want it to happen, then go buy the cars and
wasn't it at Trumansburg where the guy pulled in with this gorgeous old Mopar muscle car, Roadrunner or Satellite or something like that, and he was going to wreck it because otherwise his wife was going to get it in a divorce settlement and she wasn't going to get it, so he trashed it.
Oh, I don't remember. I've never heard that story. That's pretty funny though.
Yeah, he made sure if she takes it, it's not going to be worth it.
That's pretty funny. That's pretty funny. One of my best derby stories is Trumansburg. The first year I ever ran Trumansburg, Tompkins County Fair, I'd taken a 70 Newport up for a heat car. And, lucked my way in, made it to the feature so I could take a fresh car back Saturday night. Mm-hmm. So I had a 70-something. It was like a Roscoe cop car.
Okay.
Off. And, as we usually did, we were finishing it up Saturday. Mm-hmm. And you have to, jam shows, you got to be there early to sign in, blah, 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 blah. Well, Dad had built a tow bar because we didn't have a trailer. So he hooks it up to the back of that truck, and I steered it because he's like, you don't have to steer it, you can just ride. And I'm like, no, I'll steer just in case. And when I tell you we were running up Route 96, passing cars at 70 miles an hour with a demolition derby car, I am not lying to you. I'm not exaggerating, not lying. Literally 70, hauling. So I go out, run the feature, junk the car, end up second. We get done. Dad's like, oh, bumper's still straight. We can tow it home. Put the bumper back, put the tow bar back on it, and towed it back home. Not as fast, mind you. So we get home, and the rims that I had put on it, they weren't the original rims because I put some snow tires on it because you couldn't run heavy tires up there. Right. And we had to put spacers behind the rims to get them out away from the calipers. Sure. Every wheel on that car was loose. They'd weeble wobble. Every hole egged out. I'm just like, can you imagine if we'd lost a tire or two? Either way, towed this.
Oh, how are you going to explain that?
Oh my gosh! And that was before I had the current job I have where I might be able to get out of it, but
I don't know.
That was a fun night.
I think it'd be tough now.
That was a fun night.
Guess who just checked in on the live chat?
Who's that?
Stephen Blankenship.
Really?
Yep. Been a while since we heard from him.
Oh my goodness, we met Steve in Utah. What a good dude.
Steve was
scared the living. Not as much right that night, but when we watched it on tape afterwards, It scared the living bejesus out of every one of us.
Yes. Yep. And he was our guinea pig, and the hindsight was if that had worked.
Yeah.
If it had worked, it would have been so cool. But
yeah.
Oh well.
For those of you who don't know,
roll and go.
Yeah, Steve, we were in Utah. Lazamy put on a show, and we went out there. It was the first time we went to Utah. And he came down that track wide open, and he turned, and the car rolled over, he kept going, but his head actually came outside of the driver's door, and he was he was beyond lucky. I mean, that was a miracle, and kept going, and I think he ended up second or third in the that feature was weird how it ended. I don't know where anybody really ended up, but that was definitely a miracle on that track.
Yeah, he turned while getting clipped and barrel rolled and landed on all four and just left.
Gone.
Just like that.
Like, it happened so quick, the motor didn't even shut off, I don't think.
I think the speed is what kept him from getting hurt, because the momentum, by the time his head was out the window, the rest of the mass had already come over the top and he was all right.
Yeah, that was crazy.
Man.
Good dude, though.
Super
now runs
good
sport or late models, as far as I know.
Late models, yep, that's right. Well,
that was an hour.
That flew
fast.
I hope people had fun. I mean, it's not something that we do every night. We try to keep the conversation going with the folks in live chat as well. We sort of lost the steam on that as we got throwing around the old stories. Nick Stepik,
I blame that on the IT guy.
New York and PA drivers came to his neck of the wood. Got to meet Mike DeFreesia out there.
He's a good dude.
73 Charger was a nasty car that Scott Kiefer bumped into in Bath. Probably narrowed down to about 5 guys that I assume that might have been built by. Mm-hmm. And Butch Sisko, he's working on his relic car right now. We do need to Bash for Cash, Smash It Demolition Derbies. They are looking at that one coming up in the spring next year, hoping that gets off the ground. Smash It Demolition Derby, many thanks to those who supported Smash It in 2020. Challenging and unprecedented season, to say the least. Couldn't do it without the support of the drivers, fans, fair boards, partners, year after year. With all sincerity, they do give thanks. SmashItDerby.com online. Jeffy's Fab Farm, recognized as an industry leader in all manner of fabrication needs. They specialize in LS conversions and earned all of their major derby credential on the heels of their header offerings, and it all started just on hey, I want to make some sacks for my buddies. And
how cool
it
is
took
that?
off from there. Jeffy's Fab Farm released this summer the 4-cylinder Camry engine mount and Hyundai Elantra 1.0 and 2.0 headers. The store offers bumper-to-bumper selection, including fuel and air parts, suspension and transmission items, steering components, pedals, shifters, switches, and gauges. If you need it, you can find it on the farm. Online, Jeffy'sFabFarm.com. Smith Metalworks, all-purpose metal fabrication shop with 40 years of combined experience. The hallmark of their line is that super stock bumper, plus the flat front bumpers and the pointed bumper. They can be stuffed, run hollow, either way. Also, compact versions of the pointed bumper. Other items include the Crown Vic door skins, battery boxes, engine mounting systems, pedal combos, and shifters. All the odds and ends that you need, including distributor clamps and weld-in centers. Be sure to ask the GM about the GM floor liners. You can get this stuff shipped right to your door. Experience and passion second to none. SmithMetalworks.info. Unified Point Series. We do need to get in touch with Mark Elliott. At this point, it is in the books, but I haven't seen the final results of the audit. You can stay up to date online. 527unifiedseries.com. John Shipley out in front. 106 points over Don Santel with 100. What a season. Front to back, how that whole thing came together. It was awesome. We should
amazing.
We'll get a season in review together with Mark. He's been buried with work and everything that we got to get wrapped up with. No Mercy is coming up in the spring of 2021. Looking at April right now, but again, kind of just keeping finger on the pulse of the COVID situation. Friday is the 3-man compact heats, 80s Pro Stock heats, and the half-ton trucks and SUVs. Saturdays, the last chance events for Dead Man Derby. Online, deadmanderby.com. It's going to be their Spring No Mercy show. Youth Compact Division, Imperials, minivan truck and SUVs, full-size team one and done. Dead Man Compact, 70s and 80 Pro Stocks, 3-man compact team feature, 6,000 to win. Full-size Mercenaries one and done, 3,000 to win there. We're going to be talking with TJ about some of the details of that one as it gets closer. And, of course, we've got Blizzard Bash 2.0 and Capital City Carnage combined for March at this point. So we'll be diving into some of that when we get Tim on the line. I guess we kind of just mapped out our next 3 weeks, didn't we?
Pretty close. Pretty close.
We got some more chats coming in. See if anybody jumped in there. Don't forget the El Camino. Oh my gosh, Nick Stepik, the El Camino in Utah. That was.
They like those out there.
Yeah, well, I remember that one. That shifted the wall and it moved all those, moved all the hay bales and everything. And almost the only thing that was holding up the back half of that trailer and keeping all of the production rig from spilling down onto the bottom of the Golden Spike Arena was the edge of the trailer caught a chunk of cattle gate pipe that was about that thick or excuse me, that was that wide when it flattened out. Mm-hmm. And the El Camino is nothing compared to the Town and Country wagon that mashed the gate flat and almost took us all out. Ben standing there cheering, the rest of us are bailing over the fence looking for someplace to go. That was a couple of good ones. What I got time to check into. Oh, Marty's. I was trying to make sense of Marty's post. He's tuning in now when it's live instead of waiting until 3 in the morning to catch the re-air. I got you. So,
nice.
So Marty's tuning in. Always good to hear from Pops. Everybody, yeah, Nick Stepik. It almost killed us. I've been almost killed a bunch of times.
Yeah, you've had some close calls.
Yeah, it's always fun to look back on it because we can laugh at it since
Yeah,
you're
because
alive.
we're still alive. Yeah, it's always fun to look back and be like, man, that was a good time.
Talked about those memories that you'll never forget.
Mm-hmm.
Hillbilly Hammer, Chuck Bowman story with that celebrity. Another one will be when I was trying to figure out how to brace myself sitting next to Jeremy Gully in the Dodge pickup truck. And trying to do anything I can to keep that seat with a broken slider from thrashing back and forth, man. And I tried to brace myself with my legs right about the time that it got online. And I realized at that very moment that it is possible for both your shin bones to come through the top of your kneecap at the same time. I thought for sure they were doing it.
Now, was that instant?
So upon further review, we decided that I was going to just try and keep my feet on the ground, and that was
Keep reaching for the stars.
When my shin bounced off the dash bar, and I hit my head right here off the A-post, which is really a change of pace, because usually when I'm wrecking cars, it's this part of my head that's hitting the A-pillar, mostly in Dodge Magnums and Dodge Avengers, but that's a story for another time.
Oh, goodness.
Was it instantly what?
Was it instant pain when you smashed your shins, or did it not happen until after the derby was over and everything wore off?
So, have you ever, like, the closest thing I can compare it to is like when, like, playing hockey, and somebody takes a slap shot and rings the puck off your leg, or they take a slap shot on the follow through, you get slashed, and that hard wood whacks right against that thin skin over the bone, and it feels like it's an instant knot. You know, the big, heavy knot. That's all I thought it was. I really didn't think that there was anything major going on until I saw the transmission fluid stain on the leg of my pants. And it was only about the size of a quarter. And I looked around, and I've spent no time inside derby cars. But I noticed there was no other transmission fluid any place. There was no origin for the leak.
It was just that one spot that happened to hit
And I'm
your
like,
pants.
what's leaking? Because in the back of my mind, in the calamity of errors that were transpiring in the passenger seat, next to a very calm and collected Jeremy Gully, I got to thinking to myself how difficult it was to get into this truck, and those fateful words that I heard moments ago when I was off on the side of the track. If this does happen to catch on fire, how am I going to get out of here? And upon an inspection of the floor, there didn't appear to be any gas or oil. It just happened to be that spot on my pant leg. I'm like, well, maybe I got it getting in or something like that. He was topping off. And under a red flag, which felt like... The heat felt like it lasted 2 minutes, but the red flag felt like it lasted 45. Like, if that makes any sense.
Oh, yeah.
I pulled my pant leg up, and I looked at my shin bone. And at that point... all of the prior thoughts about, boy, this is going to be hard to explain to Melissa. This might have been a bad decision. Were nothing compared to how hard this was going to be to explain to Melissa and what a horrible decision it was.
Oh, goodness.
It didn't hurt. It just felt like a knot on my shin, and I fully expected to see a bruise or something like that, or a big.
I'm sure you bruised the bone that was protruding from your skin at that point.
Oh, yeah. It wasn't. Now, don't misunderstand that. It wasn't a compound fracture.
No, but the bone was.
It was just the skin had been
avulsed.
Yeah, like like when Hulk Hogan rips his shirt.
Yeah.
It looked like that. And you could just see the bone. And I've seen the bones of deer being dressed, and I've seen the bones of cows, and I've seen the bones of things on the side of the road. And
You'd never seen your own bones,
well,
though.
it's nothing that I particularly enjoyed. It's nothing that I look back on and thought, wow, I really want to see more of this. But then you look at your own, and it's the color white that you can't even describe. It's like nothing that you see being cut up on a table.
Oh, it's bright. Bones are bright.
And then it registers. It's, well, that's mine.
Yeah, I've had a couple of those moments. Yeah, it gets fingers and legs a couple times. So not to completely change subject, but if people enjoy this, let us know. We'll do this again. I mean, send us some questions. Send us some.
I would definitely do this
fun,
again.
Man.
The thing that I get nervous about, and something that's always in the back of my mind. Again, coming back to that whole keeping it fresh, keeping it worth listening to. How many times do people want to listen to me talk about ripping my shin open next to Jeremy Cully in that Dodge?
A lot, apparently.
You love the story.
I do. It's pretty funny.
You end up slapping your knee every time I tell it. But how many stories do people want to hear about Waterloo? They're the same ones. You know what I mean? But I will gladly keep this kind of stuff going. There's derbies that we haven't even hit on. I mean, where was it? It's over there now. I was hanging out on the couch waiting for the show to start last week. And I was looking at the stuff on that desk. The truck that we got from Pork Chop's Kid's still over there. That's
in Kentucky.
In Owenton.
Yep.
Well, we got that when the sun was still up the first time.
Yeah. That's when we talked about WWE at 3 o'clock in the morning, and the 200 people that were still watching us guided on the conversation. Remember that? Remember how many answers and stuff we started getting online about that as that was going on? It was amazing.
What part?
Remember we started talking about old school WWE?
Yes.
And like when we do the pay-per-views, when we do the live streams, Chris is obviously the one who usually runs the computer. Well, at the bottom of his computer, it tells how many people are watching. And we still had 100, 150, 200 people still watching.
A lot of people still tuned in.
So at 3 o'clock in the morning, we start talking about WWE, and all of a sudden our phones and everything start going off. Remember, me, you, and Josh, we were getting, Ben wasn't getting as many, but it was going, we were talking about old school wrestling, and oh my goodness, it was laughing. We laughed about that after we all woke up when we were driving home Sunday. We got talking about that again. I mean, we've had some incredible times. And then there was that time when Chris and I must have been going to Florida. The last time we went, last February.
The last time. So just as COVID was starting to show up, right? Okay.
We went to
2020.
Yeah.
That was still this year.
We went to, it seems like 20 years ago, but we went to the Rochester Airport in Rochester, New York. And on occasion, before a flight, Chris and I would stop and have a drink. We've got to make sure you're hydrated. So we were flying Southwest, and there used to be a watering hole right next to the terminal. Well, that was gone. So Chris and I walked down back to the bar that was right by where you walk in.
Southwest?
Yeah. Right by where you walk in, and we sit down and order a couple drinks, and I think we got 2 drinks, and the bill was like $30. Which isn't bad for, if you're an O'Hare, because O'Hare is even worse than that. But I milked that drink for everything it was worth and got up and went and sat dejectedly in the seats waiting for our airplane.
I remember that. Brian was going to get every last set of it. He was picking ice cubes out of the glass and licking them off.
Oh, yeah, it was bad. If I had a longer tongue, I would lick the bottom of the glass, but that's another story.
So Mark Benjamin wants to have a past winners of Waterloo show.
Oh, boy. That'd be fun.
How we could do it. I don't know if we could pull it off right now, only because, well, for one, we've only got so many microphones. We would have to double it up, which means that people would be too close together, and I don't really want to be the reason why Finger Lakes 1 shuts down. I am more than content to play by the rules so that Finger Lakes 1 doesn't have to explain why people weren't playing by the rules. But, yeah, we could definitely do that. And Guy Raymond says, so why don't we talk to people about their memories? And that's the whole point of what the live chat is. Send stuff along.
Yeah.
Send things in. Post your stuff. I mean, we saw that great story that I never known that a story about Bolton with the loaded bumper. It's like, doesn't matter because I wasn't planning on coming back.
Mm-hmm.
So that was kind of cool. That's the kind of stuff that a night like this is built around. Absolutely. So yeah, this was a very. Marty Seeger's telling me to get a hold of him through Discord. Yeah, I will. Right now, Discord, which we don't even look at, which is another messaging app, I've got probably 25 messages that I have to do. And that's all related to just graphic stuff. So it's.
Mm-hmm. What do you think, Chris Marquardt?
I think I got to go home and do a lot of work.
We go home and watch Monday Night Football.
Yep. Hey, did you see any of that Packers game last night?
No, but my Giants won again.
Yeah, what was the cost though? Old Jones with his money?
My youngest son, who is an amazing, he's going to be some sort of sports reporter. They're monitoring him. It's day to day. They don't expect him to miss a game. He's going to test it later in the week.
Did you see Josh Allen go down when he got wrapped up and tried to flip the ball to the sidelines?
Mm-mm.
I thought he was done. I thought he was donezo.
Did you see the coolest thing that Josh Allen has done since he's been in Buffalo? Right around Thanksgiving, him and Jim Kelly got together and exchanged jerseys for the first time.
Oh, really? That's
Jim
cool.
Kelly gave him an autographed jersey and I think an autographed Hall of Fame Jim Kelly football. And he got Josh because Jim Kelly is one of the first guys that made trading jerseys famous. I can remember in the early 80s, he had a hole in his man cave before he was a married dad. He had his man cave downstairs and it had all these jerseys from other players. So it was cool, but I followed Jim Kelly on Instagram or one of those because he's an amazing man. And I showed him and whatchamacallit exchange jerseys. So
Alan
cool.
has Melissa's mom was a tenacious Buffalo Bills fan, and she used to stalk those guys to get autographs.
Cool.
So he has a section of the turf that they pulled out of the field.
That's awesome.
And a football that is signed by. I'm going to shoot in the dark because I don't remember for certain all the names that are on there. Bill Polian, Jim Kelly, Steve Tasker, either Bruce Smith or Dale Talley.
Awesome.
I can't. There's a ton of these autographs, and she used to get pictures of them. It like Melissa has the best story of her mom chasing Jimmy Johnson and Emmitt Smith, and I think Leon Lett.
Really?
And Don Beebe's autographs on the ball.
That's
Don,
cool.
Don signed it Don B. B, which was really cool.
Yeah.
And I've always had a soft spot for Don Beebe because he went to Super Bowls with he's got 3 Super Bowl wins, I think. Or he's been in.
Oh yeah, he won with Green Bay.
He went with
Buffalo
and then went with Green Bay
and won with Green Bay.
Yeah.
Yep.
He's been in a bunch, not as many as Tom Brady. But anyway, but yeah, that football is really, really cool. So I think it was Bruce Smith was trying to leave, and he's in this car with these blacked out windows. Her mom walked over to the car, knocked on the window. He put the window down. He didn't look pleased.
So Melissa was with her for some of this.
Oh yeah,
That's awesome.
Yep.
I'd like to hear some of those stories.
Her parents were at the Greatest Comeback game.
Really?
They were there.
Did
And
you
they
know?
didn't leave.
Did you know there's 15 million people that were at that game?
I know. And
Even Jim Kelly says that. He's like, man, I've met more people that were at that game. He said more people were at that game than any other game in Bills history. But yeah, it was my brother when he worked at Troyer Engineering. Billy Colton, who ran Troyer Engineering and owned it for a while.
I always forget that he worked for Troyer.
Him and his brother owned a RV dealership of vans by Colton.
Right.
And they would give Jim Kelly and his family 2 or 3 RVs, and him and his brothers, that's where they would hang out before and after games. The year, I think it was the first year they won, or they were going to the Super Bowl, they tore down the goalposts and carried them out of the stadium, out over the top and dropped them. Colton got a piece of the goalpost signed by one. I think it was Leonard Smith was who signed it for.
Yeah.
So pretty cool.
Yep. Alan's got some cool Bill stuff, some cool Bill stories. Melissa had all sorts of pictures that all of a sudden went lost, because back then you had to give the role to the people at Kmart.
Oh yeah.
I don't know if she had a picture, if her mom had taken a picture of John Madden, or is a picture with Melissa and John Madden.
Oh my goodness.
And gone.
Oh my goodness.
She had a picture with Barry Switzer.
Wow.
Yeah,
A friend of mine
cool
had went to Alfred. He went to Alfred State, and he met a kid who had played high school football at Springville, which is where I call it Rich Stadium, but where Buffalo Bills Stadium is. They played their sectional games at the stadium. That's where they played their normal sectionals. Like states now, like you can play in there, and then you go. But like their sectionals were held there.
Yeah.
And he was on varsity from 9th grade up because he was that good. He got to know the Bills, like all the Bills players. They would hang out and like watch games. And he went to Jim Kelly's house. Like he met all those guys.
Did Jim Kelly know?
Oh yeah. Yeah, he was there with them. It was cool. He had a bunch of pictures. So that's pretty neat stuff.
Yeah. I always was fascinated by like Atlanta's sectionals. The Georgia football championships get played in the Falcons arena and in
Same
Dallas.
with Texas.
Yeah, you beat me too at Dallas. They
play all the big stadiums down there.
Well, how does a building like that operate if you don't do that?
Yeah.
You got to have concerts.
Yeah.
Rich Stadium has stuff. Rich, I can't believe New Era. Well,
no, it's
New
nothing
Era
right
Field
now.
anymore. Yeah,
it's Bill Stadium. But yeah, that's a couple years. Last year, the Ithaca Cortica football game was played in Giants Stadium.
Yeah.
So that was pretty neat. But yeah, it's the year my son was born.
It was played in Giants Stadium.
18 years ago, I wish.
How'd the Jets feel about that?
No kidding. 18 years ago, I was helping Bath at the time, and they played the regionals at Rich Stadium.
Yeah.
And it was the 2 Saturdays before my son was born. My wife was like, "You can't go because what if I have the baby?" And I'm like, "You're not gonna have the baby," and she didn't. But so I didn't go. That was my one chance to be on the field at Rich Stadium, and unfortunately I missed it. But
our New York State Public High School Athletic Association championships for football are held at the Dome in Syracuse, which is really cool.
Oh yeah,
Not because of Syracuse, but because they get to play where Monster Jam runs.
Exactly. I was blessed enough to be at 2 of those, and I can't tell you as a football fan what it was like to stand on the floor of the Dome for a football game. And there was only, I don't know, maybe 10,000 people there, but that Dome was so loud, and it was such a great football experience for those kids, and that was pretty amazing. But
one of the coolest things was getting to walk through the bowels of Blue Cross Arena to get down to ringside where you're allowed to sit, where they set up the press boxes and the players benches for the basketball games. And that was very cool being there, because I really enjoy hockey back when it was played.
When's that going to start?
It's forthcoming. Honestly, when everything shut down in March, it was basically like I shut the valve off and never turned it back on. I didn't follow any. I couldn't get my head around what was going on. I didn't put the effort into following along to learn what was going on with the weird mini season and how they picked up and the points and then the playoffs and then Chicago got in by. They must have let all the teams in to the playoffs because they had a series and then they got eliminated. So
I think each team should have put their toughest guy up and just fist fought.
So what little interest I did have, I was a terrible fan. I didn't pay any attention after that. I couldn't even tell you. I assumed that Tampa Bay won the cup. They were the strongest team. I think Tampa played Dallas, and I didn't even see the cup get skated this year, which was. It's really.
Have you ever seen the cup in person?
No. Kyle Corrier has. Kyle Corrier, video guy up in Malone, New York, Franklin County. He does some of the video work up there. He's seen it, and that's one of the few people on earth that I have a grudge against because he's seen it.
Holy cow! It's almost 7:30.
I know we gotta get out of here. We gotta be done. All right. Well, if you enjoyed it, great. Give me some feedback. Let me know. We'll do it again sometime, and we'll figure things out. If you have memories, if you have stories, if you have things you want to talk about, pick our brains. Put it in the live chat. When we're live right now, I'm watching it. As you type in, I'm watching it. So Marty, the messages now that you posted, I'm ignoring. I'm doing it on purpose, just so you know. He was talking about have that winner show, get them all on Discord, and then we can pump in Discord through the computer, and it'll all come through on one channel, so we can just pick up that audio server. And it's a great idea, and it would work. So that's something to keep in the back of our mind. It would keep everybody distant. And
Cool.
That would be a lot of fun
Yeah.
if we could do that. So something to keep in the back of your mind. If you like anything else, a topic that you want us to get to, feel free to share it, bring it along. Man, pretty good for not having any plans.
Yeah, we did all right.
All right, we appreciate it. 3:33 in the books. We'll see everybody next time.
The Crash Course Live is presented by
Smash It Demolition Derby, who host Bash for Cash, Blizzard Bash, and Capital City Carnage. Online at smashitderby.com. And Stirring Dirt Racing, hosts of May Mania's team show at the Golden Spike Arena in Ogden, Utah. Online at stirringdirtracing.com.
Reckless Abandon Derby Apparel, and Derby Inc. Magazine. This is the Crash Course Demolition Derby podcast, recorded live at the FingerLakes1.com studios in downtown Seneca Falls, New York.